Hi, sweeties. How are you doing? Welcome to cimnanya. Thank you so much for the support. Hope you all are doing great. So, recently, I know people are always trying to tell Black people that they are doing crime, black on black crime, which normally there is nothing like black on black crime, right? We have crime because the same rate, I am not going to say, but other people commit crime. It is not only in our community that you see crime, it is all over, right? But people are always quick to tell us black on black crime. So does it mean that we are going to say Asian on Asian crime or Latino on Latino crime or white on white crime? All those things do not exist. And also, I am not saying that we have perfect community. The same way our community is not perfect is the same way other communities are not perfect. But everybody will live their own community and look for a way to call us out. Why? Because they've already placed this stereotype on us. And I usually do have problem with people, especially people that look like me, that talk with the tone of the people stereotyping us. If you are a Black person and you are talking black on black crime, you are part of the problem. Because why are you talking about, is there anything like black on black crime? Now, mind you, I am not defending crime. Anything that got to do, if you do the crime, you do the time. That is something I believe in. But you know what? Let's get into this.
What a great question this is. This person says, what are you doing about black on black unalivement? Black folk unaliving each other daily. What are you doing about it? This is a response to a video in which I asked white people what they were doing about white on white crime, as well as what they're doing in regards to the supposed racism that they face every day. Interesting response, but let's address it. Now, according to the Alliance for Pe0ple Responsibility, Black people in the United States bear the brunt of the Pe0ple violence epidemic. Now, let's go over a few facts that highlight the disproportionate impact that Pe0ple violence takes on the Black community. Now, each day on average, 30 Black Americans are unalived by Pe0ples. They are also 10 times more likely to experience Pe0ple violence than white Americans. We are 3 times more likely to be Pe0pled and unalived by police than white Americans. You mean it's not just Black people unaliving Black people? No. We also experience 18 times more Pe0ple assault injuries than white Americans. And 68% of us, or someone we know, has experienced some form of Pe0ple violence. Now, this disparity is the result of centuries of oppression and disinvestment. You see, homicides, assaults, and police Pe0plings all occur at a disproportionate rate in historically underfunded communities. This underfunding is a result of past racist policymaking and perpetuates long-standing racial inequities. You mean to tell me that racism is at the base of this whole thing? Disproportionate rates of Pe0ple violence have also been exploited by the Pe0ple lobby and other bad actors who have pushed dangerous myths to spread fear and to advance pro-Pe0ple agenda rather than invest in proven solutions like community violence intervention and victim support. Let's talk about one of those myths in particular. The myth of so-called black on black crime suggests that there is a rampant crime problem within the Black community. See, it perpetuates the myth that intraracial violence is specific to the Black community and that Black people are inherently violent. A myth that has been used to justify the mistreatment of Black people in the United States for centuries. The suggestion that Black people are predisposed to violence dates as far back as 1896, when it was included in the first nationwide report on racial crime data. Now, that report did not go unnoticed or unchallenged. W.E.B. Du Bois made 2 points that we're still grappling with more than 120 years later: the different ways in which Black and white Americans are treated by our justice system, and the relationship between crime and the threat of poverty due to systemic racism. Data shows a clear connection between poverty and violent crime. Imagine that. And in the United States, poverty is inextricably linked to anti-Black racism and white supremacy. Because of centuries of racist policymaking and disinvestment, more Black people than white people live in poverty in the United States. But research has shown that Black and white people in poverty commit crimes at the same rate. In general, white people commit crimes against each other. Yes, white people commit crimes against other white people at the same rate as Black people do against other Black people. I know your mind is blown. But despite these facts, no one ever cries about white on white crime. The black on black crime myth is not only just inaccurate, it's harmful. Beyond perpetuating anti-black racism, it is used as a tool to dismiss or distract calls for justice from the black community. The myth serves not only to discredit the calls for justice and shift blame to the black community, but also, at its worst, to justify police violence. So again, you asked what I was doing, right, about black on black crime? And I asked what you're doing about white on white crime. I'll tell you exactly what I'm doing. I'm up here on this platform that I've been given graciously by the good people to address things like racism, racial inequality, disparities, history in America, the concept of race, the experiences that black people have in relation to white people here in this country. And while doing all of this, I am hoping to educate people like you so that you can go to the voting booth and be educated on what's actually happening when you check off for certain things, for certain bills, for certain people that you're putting into place of power, and how those choices that you make affect communities that are black, brown, indigenous, and other POC. I'm trying to get you to understand that you must first acknowledge that racism exists, and that not only do you benefit from it simply for being born white, your whiteness holds power, and how that system of racism continues to be perpetuated and affect our community. Because if you start to make better choices because you have been educated on the topics of race and racism and how it affects our communities, you can make those great choices to better invest, have people pour into our community so that poverty is no longer an issue. And without that poverty, the crime rates will drop. The Pe0ple violence will drop. And that goes for any impoverished community, not just black ones. Again, white people commit just as much crime against white people as black people do against black people. Because as much as you think we are integrated, we're really not. Most white people live around white people, just as most black people live around black people. Crime is intraracial, not interracial. Crime is about proximity and usually done out of necessity to survive because of lack of resources and education. So here I am giving you free education, which I should be getting paid for, Cash App and Bio, so that you can make better choices and affect positively the lives of black, brown, indigenous, and other people of color.
The other day, my grandpa asked me to explain why black on black crime is not a valid argument in 3 minutes or less, so here it goes. First, you have to have context, which requires education that you're not going to get from public school. You have to have a very solid understanding of redlining, the exclusion of the black community from home ownership, eminent domain, the gravity of the destruction of black wealth in America, via racial violence and the systemic withholding of resources. Now we can move into the most important topic, the 1991 secret meeting. And if you want to learn more about it, go listen to this interview. In short, several hip-hop artists were invited to a very secretive meeting, including several heads of the industry. They had to sign NDAs to even be there. Mind you, in the 1970s, our prison population was only in the low hundreds of thousands. By 2000, it would be in the several millions. In this meeting, they were informed that these industry giants had invested in a new industry, private prisons, and that the government would pay them per prisoner. They were in turn asked to promote violence, gang activity, misogyny, drug use, drug dealing, all of that, to supply private prisons with their product, human capital. And thus began the rapid transformation of hip-hop music from MCs like Sir Mix-a-Lot to NWA, to music that promoted gangbanging and drugs and violence and misogyny, none of which was popularized in the hip-hop industry at any point before that. Now you take a group that has systematically been deprived generational wealth, home ownership, quality education, particularly those still living below the poverty line, and you push violence, drugs, gangbanging, and overall criminal activity. You create the perfect breeding ground for criminals. You also develop a breeding ground for dehumanizing dog whistles like black on black crime. Meanwhile, those using those dog whistles have no idea about any of this. If they did, would they be so quick to bring it up, considering the demographics of the people who have pushed this? The people who made a willful decision to profit off the destruction of black wealth and black families? To rob an entire generation of their fathers so that they could be raised in poverty by a mother working so many jobs that she was never around? So that the only time that these children ever saw success, it would be from drug dealers and gangbangers. Because doctors aren't living in the hood. But my final counter argument, if we're going to discuss crimes of proximity, are we also going to discuss white on white crime? mass shootings, how the statistics show that 88% of child porn convictions are of white men, that they make up over half of all child sex offenders? Or is intraracial crime only important when we're talking about black people? And is it only important as long as we're leaving out all of the context on why it's a problem, including who started it, who is profiting off of it, and who is ensuring that you never learn the truth? Food for thought. The other day, my grandpa asked me to explain why black on black crime is not a valid argument in 3 minutes or less, so here goes. First, you have to have context, which requires education that you're not going to get from public school. You have to have a very solid understanding of redlining, the exclusion of the black community from home ownership, eminent domain, the gravity of the destruction of black wealth in America, via racial violence and the systemic withholding of resources. Now we can move into the most important topic, the 1991 secret meeting. And if you want to learn more about it, go listen to this interview. In short, several hip-hop artists were invited to a very secretive...
Since I said debunking myths in March is my thing, here's another myth. The myth of black on black crime. And this one is very close to me. I have lived in urban areas my whole life. I have visited farms. I've visited places across the planet. But urban areas are usually where I'm most comfortable. Inside of those urban areas, you have everything. Love, light, dancing, crime. You have it all the time. It's called proximity crime for a reason. I have never in the history of my life ever heard of a group of gangbangers in the inner city driving all the way the fuck out to a rural area to rob somebody. I never have. People do things to other people that they are close to. Be it rape, robbery, sexual assault, violence, things of that nature. You will harm the people that are close to you. Black on black crime was some bullshit started by who in the fuck knows way in the fuck back then to distinguish somehow when black folks do things to each other from everybody else doing things to each other. And it has been a detriment to people dealing with crime ever since. There is no fictional, mythical way that black folks harm other black folks. It's never happened. We use the same techniques every goddamn body else does. And it is a detriment to the black communities, the black and brown communities that these people live in because they get over-policed based on that myth. And the other way it hurts everybody else is when you have a person who is a serial rapist or a person who kidnaps children in these suburban and rural areas, they don't get that label. They get shit like murder in a small town. Of course it's going to be murder in a small town because human beings live in a small town and they murder people. Your shit gets mythologized, our shit gets fictionalized. You cannot have it both ways. In order for us to truly deal with crime as it stands, we must first be honest about it. Proximity crime is a problem, no matter where you live or no matter what you do. The fact that a suburban woman is more likely to be raped by somebody that she knows than some stranger from the inner city shows exactly what the fuck we're talking about. It is a myth, and it is a detriment to black communities because we have to carry that stigma. It is always used as a cudgel against us, which is why we don't get proper police training, nor do we get proper policing within our communities. There is a myth called black on black crime. I wish to fucking God it would end.
13% of the population commits 50% of the crime. If Black lives matter, then what about black on black crime? More black people are killed by the cops because more of them resist. We've all heard those talking points and many others just like them. But instead of continuing to argue these same tired talking points, instead I want to talk about conclusions. I want to ask those people who use those talking points, what conclusion are you drawing from them? When you say 13% of the population commits 50% of the crime, what conclusion are you drawing? Is it that black people are more violent? Or is it that black people are criminals? You see, using that statistic, you can only be coming to one of two conclusions. When you say, if black lives matter, then what about black on black crime? What conclusion are you drawing? Are you concluding that black people simply hate other black people? Or again, are you just concluding that black people are more violent? When you say that more black people are killed by the cops because more of them resist, Are you concluding that black people just simply resist authority naturally? Or again, are you concluding that simply black people are more violent? You see, I want you to understand the conclusion you arrive to is what's important. Because if you use these talking points and arrive to racist conclusions, then you are a racist. It doesn't matter how you arrive to a racist conclusion, you're a racist. Everything you said up until that conclusion was simply your way of justifying your racism. You see, if you were not racist and someone said to you, 13% of the population commits 50% of the crime, then the conclusion you should immediately come to is, why is a minority of the population overrepresented in crime? If somebody says, if Black Lives Matter, then what about black on black crime? The conclusion you should come to is that any different than white on white crime? Are the rates of white on white crime and black on black crime different? You'll find out that they're not. They're actually within 8% of each other. When you hear somebody say more black people are killed by the cops because more of them resist, then the conclusion you should come to is, why is a minority of the population overrepresented in these statistics? What is the standard for resisting? Is it arbitrary, or is it an actual tangible standard? These are the conclusions you would come to if you were looking at it from a reasonable person perspective. But when you come to the conclusions that we mentioned earlier, those are racist conclusions. So if you find somebody using these talking points towards you, I want you to ask them, what is your conclusion? If you find yourself using those talking points, I want you to ask yourself, what is my conclusion? Because when you take your conclusion by itself and look at it, and that's racist, it does not matter how you arrived at it. You're just a racist using talking points to justify your racism.
Have you white folks ever asked what is black on black crime? Huh? You ask a black person, what's black on black crime? Well, we tired of black folks killing black folks. And that don't bother you white folks? We tired of black folk killing white folks. Now, they didn't say they tired of black folk killing. They said they tired of them killing black folks. Then who be left? And if we all went to China tonight, who you think's killing Chinese in China tonight? If we go to Italy tomorrow, who you think's killing Italians in Italy? And if 98% of all white folks that was murdered in America last year was murdered by white folks, if y'all ain't talking about white on white crime, how y'all trick us to talk about black on black crime? You kill where you live. And if you black folks tired of black folk killing black, join the Urban League, the NAACP, get with Jesse Jackson, push, get out here and join us and integrate this country. And I guarantee you, if I'm living over there in that white suburban neighborhood and my old lady make me mad enough to want to shoot somebody, I'm not going to get in my car and drive back to the ghetto.
I know I may be the most hated for saying this, but some things just need to be talked about. Y'all, is it just me? Or does it seem like the energy in our black community is we can unalive each other, but nobody else better not unalive us? Now, I'm saying this because every day we look at the news and it's an unaliving. Oh, he passed away. She passed away. 5 people were unalived in one night from a Pe0ple. And I'm not going to say the words because it's community violations and they'll take the video down. But y'all get what I'm saying. And it seems like the deaths are almost like normal. It's like we're accustomed to it. Every single time that somebody is unalived, our community takes 2 losses. You know, somebody is dead and somebody goes to prison. So that's 2 hurt families. A lot of times the Pe0ple, you know, and unalivings, you know, they go unsolved. But I'm saying all of this to say, God forbid it's a police-related Pe0ple. And I know that polices are held to a higher standard. And I know that there's a lot of things has happened with the police. But right now I'm talking about an incident where it was a shootout and another young black man was unalive. And it's justifiable. But the community will come together and march and pull out all the civil rights activists and everybody's standing around and want to have rallies and stuff like that. But y'all, where the energy at every day when we wake up and 5 people has been unalived? Like, where's that energy when a little boy and a little girl, when people are unalived every day? Is it not enough to come together and try to figure out something like right now? What we see on the news right now, is that not enough for us to come together and try to figure out something? I remember there was a time when women, children, elderly people were protected. But y'all, at this point, ain't nobody safe. It seems to me that the people that are committing these crimes are kind of comfortable, because it's like what's gonna be done? Like, oh, it's just another day. He was unalive. No, ain't nobody going hard for the community. So somebody tell me, is it just me? Am I the only person that feel like this? It's like we can unalive each other, but God forbid somebody else come and unalive one of us. And y'all, what do y'all feel can be done in the community? Like, what can we do right now to try to come together and fix this? It ain't time to blame each other and point the finger. It's like, what do y'all think can be done right now to help in the community and make a change? Y'all leave a comment. Y'all be blessed.
So this is all I got from this video, and it's really, I've been saying this black on black crime a lot recently, and the people, which I know these people are always like, talking about black on black crime, but it's been a while. I heard it from them, aside from the first stage that started the video, right? It has actually been conservatives on the internet that I see a lot talking about it, which somehow I brought them here. Some I moved past them and all that. They are so quick to talk, like, why is it that our black community are like PeoPleing themselves? And then I am like, it's just like the way, like in Africa, or like, let's say Turkish people and all that. If there is anything happening, it's still them and them doing it. Do we say maybe like white on white crime, or Latino and Latino, or Latino and Latino crime? I don't understand it, or Asian on Asian crime, We do not talk about all this, but we are so quick. I just do not understand black people, some black people, not all black people. See, now let me say this. I am not going to ignore the fact, I will not, sincerely speaking, ignore the fact that some certain things happen in our community, which also happen in other people's community. It's not like it's only in my community that is happening. But I absolutely would love to see our community getting along, right? Like real getting along, loving one another, being each other's keeper and all that, which majority of black people do also, not like they don't do it. But I want to see more of it, right? So all these, there is nothing like black on black crime. Can we just cut that crap and stop talking about it? Because it does not, it is not a thing, right? It is just every other thing that it's just like the way mass PeoPle is happening every how many market days in America, and who are the people doing it? And they are doing it to themselves most times, and sometimes to other people. So what are you going to call the one that happened to Eugene did, and the one he did to the city? So what are we going to talk about that, right? Green and green crime, or white and white crime. The truth is that I understand that some people, I don't know, but some people really don't want to talk. I understand that, but we can talk about what is going on in our community without tagging it or looking for a note to support the stereotype, that has been placed on us. If you are a black person and you stereotype your fellow black person the way other people are stereotyping us. You are part of the problem. I am not going to call it because there is nothing like a racist, you're a black racist, or you are this racist and all that. You're holding prejudice. I am not going to use that. You are as bad. I am going to say you are as bad as them too. So we can actually stop. Does that make sense? So enough of, we can talk about some certain things happening in Black community, how to make adjustments and how to be better people, you know. And now let me tell us this. No matter how we preach, like, for good things and all that, the reality is that I know crime is not good, but crime cannot be eradicated. I don't know if that makes sense. So, but we all are hoping and believing. I don't want to say praying because I am not, because I don't know. I can't remember. Sometimes I just like hope and wish that, some certain things will reduce all over the world, because it is not us. It's in every other community and all that. Why am I trying to crucify my own community over what is happening all over? The best I can do is to call ourselves and tell ourselves, we can do better and we can make our community a better community where everybody will be happy. Because for me, that is the major important thing, where everybody is progressing. I hope you receive this message real good. I do not want to start going back and forward. And thank you so much. And I'll see you all in my next video. Bye for now.